quickly. So this is what they've done. They've mounted this sort of campaign for decades, and of course, ever since Lyndon Johnson kind of handed the South to the Republicans after the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act in the 60s, the governments or the GOP has said, okay, Deep South, come on board. We're going to, get these blacks in line for you. We're going to make your streets safe. We're going to do be law and order and religion.
And they've done a hell of a job.
And states' rights and all of that. They've done a hell of a job. And so here we are with Trump and the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually had a state senator, I think it was 2 years ago, that said in committee that we should not be here discussing gun rights. We should be discussing bills on how we should require people to go to church on Sundays.
Start paying fucking taxes, and then maybe we'll actually give a shit about your statement.
So it's like, that was like total, so much for, separation of church and state there.
That one fucking idiot that's like, oh, we all need to go to church every Sunday.
Sylvia Allen. Senator Sylvia Allen.
Senator.
From Snowflake.
Oh, ick.
And
Snowflake.
So that made the news.
Whiter than white. Yeah.
Now one of the kind of bright spots that we've seen in the United States lately has been the Satanic Temple, who has embraced the religious liberty laws around the country. And
we fucking love you guys.
They, Kara was actually the first candidate ever endorsed by the Satanic Temple.
Yay! I'm so proud of that. If you
they're
don't
starting up. They're starting up after-school Satan clubs to counter the Good News clubs. We know a lot of the Satanists here in Arizona, and they're a bunch of really good people. I mean, we love them. They're actually very intelligent. They are really doing some good work by trying to basically shove back on the religious liberty or religious belief laws. By showing that, well, what's good for you is good for me. Because according to the Constitution, if they let you go in there with your religious beliefs, you got to let me come in too. And if you don't like it, we'll take you to the court.
Oh, the Constitution is an alternative fact.
Well,
Stop
that's
it.
fake news. So, but so they've kind of been a bright spot. They've actually started gaining some ground and gaining a lot of followers. So that's been kind of helpful as a pushback. Towards the evangelical American Taliban, but it's not enough because they're still small in numbers and don't have the clout that, say, the Southern Baptists have, or the Jerry Falwell and what's that other guy's name? The one on the 700 Club.
Pat Robertson?
Yeah,
Pat Robertson.
That asshole. I mean,
Pat
that
Robertson,
guy.
Yeah.
Fuckface?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy comes up with a new whizzer every single day. And it's just like, really? You said that on TV?
He did say that.
Yeah, he did say that. We've got video. So, but that's the thing is I think we're starting to see in our country a rise of people who are kind of rejecting the idea of theocracy and having lack of representation. And it's nice to see that. And I think that when people put out articles like yours, it grabs the attention of people, and people look at it and go, he's right. That really is okay. We're going to start doing that.
Yeah.
It creates critical thinking, which obviously we haven't been doing a lot of in our country over the past 6 to 10 years. But this is
we haven't been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I was raised in Texas, so I was in the Bible Belt, and I was born in the late '60s, so I remember the indoctrination, and being forced to go to church on a regular basis and forced to follow specific ideals. Once I got to college and actually started reaching the age of reason, I was able to break free of that and realize that you don't have to have you can be have good morality and good morals without having to have some deity holding a axe over your head saying do this or die. And that's one of the things that I think people are starting to pick up on now, and I'm hoping that it increases.
Well, it's absolutely correct, and I think a lot of it is generational. I don't think the millennial generation is nearly as devout as previous generations. And actually what we see is a decline in sort of religious belief overall. So much of it is sort of being deconstructed by movements like yours, the exact sort of critical thinking that you're talking about, people being educated. But a lot of it does have to do with the media and people being distracted. But I totally agree with you that this is a huge thing, and it does need to be addressed because religious freedom, as it's defined by the First Amendment, is a critical pillar of our democracy, the ability to worship or believe whatever the heck you want to believe, whether you want to call yourself a Jehovah's Witness or a Satanist or, a sheik or, a yoga, devotee or whatever you are. That's important to maintain. And without it, we don't have freedom. We really don't have freedom. We don't have the freedom to choose. We don't have the freedom to choose who we love. We don't have the freedom to choose what to do with our bodies. And I'm speaking with, women here particularly. It's all very important. Without that separation of church and state, we don't have freedom. And this is something that Trump wants to bring down. He's talked about it, getting rid of the Johnson Amendment, which would, in effect, strike a big blow to church and state by allowing churches to pour money into political campaigns, carte blanche, whatever they want. And by the way, that's money that they don't have to pay taxes on, right? Because the Johnson Amendment limits churches' political activities as a condition of maintaining their tax-free status. Okay, and once that's gone, basically Joe taxpayer is going to be subsidizing, Pat Robertson to, fund Trump. That's really what it is.
Right.
Look at it.
Right.
But I must be totally stupid because I always thought that the whole thing was, you know what? Churches don't pay taxes because they're not interfering with government. And no matter how you want to think about it, to whatever level, they fucking are. So either you shouldn't have a voice or you should have to pay taxes or both. I mean, according to Christ, and I'm a fucking atheist, but according to Christ, you're supposed to be like, oh, you got to give up everything for God. You got to kind of just want to help the sick and the poor, but they're basically trying to keep the sick sicker and the poor poorer and just like, well, fuck you if you die off. And I'm probably over exaggerating, but it just seems like it's just beyond a contradiction to what they're touting. And, it just irritates me beyond belief.
Well, I mean, I think it's changed quite a bit. I mean, we're starting to see. What I think is happening is that a lot of these leaders, these church leaders, are seeing the trend of people leaving the church, and they're doing everything they can to try to hold on to that. Kind of like a drowning person with death throes. They're trying to not, basically just fall apart, and it's not working really well. So,
because ultimately for them it's about money and power and influence. Really, I mean, you've got to have money to keep your mega church going, and you've got to have 10,000 people there hanging on your every word on Sunday.
Yeah,
because
Joel Osteen wouldn't be able to afford his house and mansion and stuff like that unless he has a bunch of duped people.
The people that have like bunches of kids that maybe back in the day when they could both actually work jobs before they were shipped overseas and could actually afford for their kids, now all of a sudden they can't. And then all of a sudden they're putting their faith in some fuckface liar like that. I don't understand that. It's so sad. I understand that if you feel alone and you want to put your faith in something, I understand the concept of religion, but it's really kind of sad when you actually throw your money into it. So he's living in his mansion and he has his boat and he's gassing up his boat, but you can't put food on your table. I can't comprehend that.
It's
Yeah.
just greed. Honestly, it's just greed.
Because
When you have power and you have money,
greed,
you can do shit. Kind of like how Trump said that he could kill somebody in broad daylight in New York City and no one would do shit. Well, that's the mentality of
That's
not
absolutely
just
right.
people like him, but of the church. The church feels that because they are of a higher level and that they basically control the lives of people, the more people that they have, the more people they give money, the more people that, will
I don't believe
support
in your
them.
laws. God is my whatever.
Well, they won't support. They have people to support them even when they're wrong. Okay, the Catholic Church has taken a whole beating by a lot of different organizations and people about the whole pedophile priest thing, but they still have people that are Catholics that will still support the church and will not say, "Look, the church is wrong."
We don't agree with abortions, but go ahead and bend our sons over and fuck them in the ass. I mean,
Well, I mean,
really?
the point is though is that people will still
Sorry, I'm vile.
even when they have when they're in the wrong. Okay, the Catholic Church is in the wrong by hiding the pedophile priests, by basically moving them around, by paying off the families, and not those pedophile priests should have gone to prison. Period.
Yeah.
But because they are religious institutions that are protected by the religion and they're protected by the church, they don't go. And that kind of, glosses over the idea if you or I was to have sex with an underage kid, we'd be in prison by now.
I could have consensual sex with a 17-year-old guy, but all of a sudden it's statutory rape because of not because he complained, but because that's part of the rules. So it just doesn't seem right that religious institutions can get away with it.
Well, they can because people will still support them. People will still say, yeah, that's bad, but it can't be that bad because the church is always right, or their belief is always right, or their faith is always right. And they'll never admit to the thing that they believe in may be wrong. And that's where the stop is on that one. So you're never going to be able to actually get people like, for example, there's a lot of evangelists that are out there making a ton of money.
You mean like the Pat
Joel
Robertsons
Osteen, Pat Robertson, Jerry Falwell, all those folks. Well, I think she's dead, isn't she?
Well,
Or
got all that
husband
makeup, I'm sure, probably killed her.
But
yeah.
But anyway, people like that make so much money off of the people they dupe. If the people they dupe are willing to give over that much money just to hear what they have to say, they've already won. And those people are never going to go against the person that they've just dumped a whole bunch of money into because they believe in them. And so how do you stop that belief? Because right now we're going through in our country where we have a whole bunch of Trump voters that are saying, holy shit, what did we just do? But they won't admit that they made a mistake. We're seeing some that are coming out and saying, yeah, I kind of screwed the pooch when I voted for this guy. But there's still so many Trump supporters that are closet regretters.
Intractable.
That just won't admit, oh my God, I cannot believe I voted for this guy. What the fuck was I thinking? They won't admit that. They won't come out and say, look, I made a mistake. How do we fix it? Because they're too embarrassed. There's an ego factor there. And hopefully it's only been 2 months and his approval ratings is what, like 37%, something like that. It's the worst approval rating in history.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
So hopefully some of these people that are in denial, the first step in solving a problem is admitting there is one. Let's hope that they find that sometime soon, because our country can't handle 4 years of what we've seen in the past 2 months. We can't. We will just be a
You think they'll really... What odds do you put on Trump getting kicked out or leaving on his own, as Dianne Feinstein suggested earlier this week?
I don't think he will leave on his own unless Congress acts, because he's having way too much fun going and playing golf, sending his family to his family going to Vail. Aspen, going skiing in Aspen with 100 Secret Service members.
I think this
spending $12,000 on lift tickets.
I think this would be a perfect time to talk about all the let's impeach Trump petitions.
Well, we can get to that in a minute, but I mean the specific thing.